Hey everyone, welcome to today's Training Tuesday. And as you can see, it is the season finale. It's actually our last Training Tuesday of 2024. So great to have you with us. Really awesome. Whether this is your first one or you've been to all of them or you've been to all of them, um, that's yeah, it's great to have you with us today. Um, this is going to be the last one this year, but we will be back in the new year, and just stay tuned for a little bit more information on that. If it's your first one or you've not met me before, then quick hello, I'm Jeff. Yeah, really nice to meet you. It's really great to have you with us today. As I say, whether you're a regular attendee or not, then welcome. But seeing as today is the last one for 2024, I did want to just say a quick thank you to all of the customers who've joined us on Training Tuesdays, from the whole team, all of us who presented on Training Tuesdays. It's been really great doing this series. We've loved having you with us. So yeah, thanks for joining, and we look forward to next year. I think I've covered most of this slide already. As I say, it's the last one. We will be back, and if you'd like to register now for 2025 Training Tuesdays, then I've got a link coming up on the next slide. We would love your feedback in what topics you would like to see next year. So here's some, the email and some links for you. Let me get these put into the chat. Yeah, for any feedback on anything, on Training Tuesday, on Tikit as a product, on anything you like, then yeah, we'd love to hear from you. help@tikit.ai. Please get in touch with anything. That'd be great. If you have not been on every single one of these, or even if you have and you want to watch them again, then that second link is a link to the article where we cover the episode guide for Training Tuesdays, what we've covered, and the links to all the recordings. So go ahead and check that out if you want to watch any sessions again, or you miss one, or you want to just go back and revisit it because you finally got around to implementing that feature, then please check that out. And thirdly, as I said, there's a chance now to register for next year's Training Tuesdays. So please follow that link, the third one there in the chat, and you can put in your name, email, etc., and we'll be able to notify you when the next series starts. Okay, well, let's get going for today. I say it is the season finale, so we thought we'd wrap up the whole season with our 5 top tips. So this is based on really feedback from customers, largely the audience of this series. So we've taken the feedback in the sessions, we've taken the feedback afterwards, we've taken who sort of attended, how many have attended each one, we've taken into account the number of views on the YouTube videos of the recordings, and kind of come up with the 5 kind of most popular topics. And it does align with what we think is the kind of the 5 top things to kind of get your head around in Tikit in order to get the most out of the product. My role and my whole team here are focused around making sure our customers get the most out of Tikit. You've invested in it, so we want to see you be successful and find all that value in it. So today we've got my 5 top tips on getting the most out of Tikit. All right, well, we're going to do a countdown. So starting at number 5, my number 5 top tip to get the most out of Tikit, imagine a drum roll in your head, I didn't put one in, is automations. So we're going to have a look at automations when we get to the demo in a moment. Okay, and moving on, our number 4 top tip to get the most out of Tikit is knowledge and deflection. So that was actually the very first session we ever did on Training Tuesday, knowledge and deflection. It's been one of the most popular ones watched back on YouTube. So we're going to have a quick look at that. Okay, my number 3 top tip is templates and life cycles. Huge topic there. but we'll have a quick look at that as well in a moment. Number two, my number two top tip is Power Automate Tasks. Again, links into templates and life cycles and ties it all together. And finally, before we get into those, my number one top tip to get the most out of your ticket investment is multi-department. Multi-department, yeah, we've seen a lot of customers find value in this. So we're going to have a look at how you can maximize your sale of a ticket across multiple departments, not just IT. All right, let's get into the demo. So let's go through them back in that same order. So our number 5 top tip was automations. So if you go to settings, the third entry down the side there is automations. Automations are really, really powerful. If you kind of find yourself doing anything kind of repetitive or something that you wish would happen, but it just doesn't, there's a good chance automations can take care of that for you, and it's just going to be done. You do get, this is my labs, there's all kinds of stuff in here. You will get 3. If it's the first time you've ever clicked on automation, you'll see there's 3 automations out of box. One of them is turned on by default, 2 of them are turned off by default. They are at mentions, set resolution date, and auto close tickets. So these bottom 2 are off by default. You can turn those on, but let's look at what we can do with automations. I'm going to go and start a new one. If you're familiar with any kind of automation technology, any kind of logic, if this, then that kind of stuff, then you're going to get this really easily. So there's 3 parts to automation, other than the title. 3 interesting parts. There's the when, there's the if, and there's the do. So when something happens, if it meets this criteria, go and do something. And let's quickly get through that. The when is either going to be based on a schedule. You can base it on some sort of time-based schedule. Why is that drop down not coming? Or on an event. We'll just go for a refresh here. Something's not clicking for me. That's better. Or an event based on any of these objects, either being created or modified. And that can be your when. That's the kind of thing that's going to kick this automation off. So a very common thing could be when a ticket is modified. Then we're going to jump into the if. We don't want to fire every time any ticket is modified. That's going to be expensive, and you're not going to want to make this change like you're on every single ticket. You're going to want to filter that down. So we can start to add further criteria to build us into that scenario. So maybe we want to fire this automation when the category is modified or when the status is modified. You've got all the properties of the ticket there that you can zoom in on. When you get a property, you can then specify, is it just it's changed? It's just it was something and now it's something else. We want to filter it down to when it's changed from a certain value to anything, or changed from anything to a certain value, or even changed from something to something. So you can be very, very specific with that and build that out exactly as you want. And you can add more and more filters. You can choose if they're and or ored, add whole groups together. You can build up some very, very granular criteria there. Finally, I'm moving nice and fast now. In the action, there's 4 action types you can do. You can create a ticket, update a ticket, send a notification, or apply a template to a ticket. So pretty much anything you're going to want to do is going to be there. If there's a certain scenario, a P1 ticket is created, I want to update it. So I want to send a notification to a manager. When a ticket is modified, so that it was medium and now it's high priority, maybe I want to do something else. Maybe I want to create a ticket when something is resolved, but from a certain team or group for another team to go and do their part. So very, very granular control there of what you would like to do. All right, let's keep it moving with the next piece, which was knowledge and deflection. So this is all about how our bot is going to respond when we talk to it in Teams, the virtual agent. In my lab, it's called the SandyBot virtual agent. And we can give our bot knowledge so that when we ask it things, it's going to deflect. For example, my favorite one is what is the Wi-Fi password? You've all seen this a million times, I hope. And it's going to respond with what the Wi-Fi password is there. So you can think of this almost like as a FAQ, things that people are always asking your team, are creating tickets for, and it's just taking you time to have to answer each one with the same answer each time. Go create a knowledge article for it, let the bot respond. When they ticked that was helpful, yes, it was. That's still going to get logged as a ticket, but logged as deflected, so we know that the bot intervened and solved that without any human interaction. This is all managed back in the ticket portal under knowledge. And here's where you create your knowledge articles. Let's find that one we just saw. Can't scroll. I've got some fun issues today. There we are. There it is right at the very bottom. Now here's a top tip. Each knowledge article can have multiple phrases. I would recommend 2 or 3 as a minimum, really, for each knowledge article. It's the different ways in which somebody might phrase that question. It's the same question. These 2 things, the person's asking the same thing in either scenario, but they're going to phrase that question in a very different way. And having multiple phrases really helps the bot be able to kind of accurately answer with the correct answer when the intent of that question is matched. So if you've just got one phrase per knowledge article, top tip, go and add a couple more. Think of what would a user ask when they're trying to get to this information, different ways they could phrase it, and go and plug those in, and you'll find that you get a better response from your AI. Before I navigate away, because it leads into our next top tip around templates, you can, rather than responding with a kind of knowledge answer, you can have the bot respond with a template. And that's how we would invite the user to fill in a form, complete a process, kick off a process in order to fulfill a request that way. So that leaves us into templates. So I won't come back here at the end, but that's how you then wire up the template back into the knowledge so that someone can ask the bot something and it will respond with that template. Let's go and have a look at templates. Those are in settings, templates. Yeah, I've got some weird sign-in going on here. Every page being asked to sign back in. There we are. Here's all my templates. Let's look at our new user template. 2 parts to a template, and sort of 3 if we're going to include lifecycle, which we are. So the first one is the template properties. So when I create the ticket, ultimately, I wanted to have these properties set. So if you don't want to go and have to set every new user ticket to be a request and to be the category of permissions or whatever it might be, you can set that on the template, and then when it creates that ticket, it's going to have all those fields that you select already set on it. I know a new user is always a priority 2, for example, as well. It always goes to such and such team, probably the HR team would make sense, and so on. Top tip, you probably want to leave the assignee blank in most templates when they go to a certain person, just in case that person's, out for the day or for the week. If you do that, you can't leave it as this select assignee. You've got to actually pick unassigned. So make sure you do that, otherwise you're going to get an error when you try and save it. So that is the properties of the ticket itself. Lifecycle is there. We're going to come back to that in just a second. So that's the first part, is the properties of the ticket. The second part is the form. So a ticket will have a form against it. And this is built using our form builder, which is in the adaptive card designer. It might seem a little bit heavy if you've first time ever seen this or when you first opened it up, but it really is very, very easy to work with. All these elements here in this first column, you can just drag on to the card designer in the second column. This is your kind of preview. So if I want to add another field, I'm going to take another input text and just drop it right there under job title. And that's how easy you can just add new things on. So just drag and drop everything on there to build out your card. You also then kind of get that represented here in structure format, so you can kind of see nesting if you've got things like containers and columns and so on. You want to get detail with that. You can see how that all kind of builds up from a structure point of view. You can pick either from the designer a particular control. You can pick from the structure here a particular control, and then in the fourth column we do configure the properties of that particular control. So let's pick our new one we just added in there, the blank one. We were going to give it a label. What can I add? What department? That might make more sense as a choice set, a drop down, but never mind. Here we are. And as you can see, you can configure things like the placeholder text. You can choose what type of input you want there. All very granular controls. You can make it mandatory. It puts the little red star or not. So you've got a lot of control over that as well. So you can build out your forms specifying exactly how it should work, minimum length and so on. So you can be very, very specific about what you want. Little top tip. You don't need to on things like, let's say, where's the text block? Here we go. This text block for the sort of title of the form, that does not have an ID, and that is okay. You can give it one if you want to kind of help with your sort of structure and layout, but you don't need to. But anything that's an input must have an ID, must have a value in the ID field, because we actually use that ID when we kind of store this data in the backend ticket, and you will need that ID if you want to kind of pull that fields back out in any kind of programmatic way through scripting, through Power Automate, through Power BI reporting, that sort of thing. So my new one just created there. I must go and give it an ID. These IDs need to be alpha keys only. So upper and lower is fine, but no spaces, no numbers, no characters, all one word, and it's just like an internal key. Most people tend to use what is this? Camel case, I think we call that, where we capitalize the first letter of every word except the first word, and that's kind of how you can read it if you've got multiple words, because you can't have spaces, as I said. Same for last name. Okay, so that would create our form on as our template, and then let's go back. I'm going to save that quickly, and then the third piece I said was life cycles. We do configure those elsewhere in Tikit, and we go and sort of link them back in the template. So a life cycle is a multi-phase process in order to fulfill or complete a request or any kind of ticket. Again, there's some other box for you if you're very new, and you'll see these around change management, employee management, and software management. You'll see those four provided out of box. Let's have a look at that employee management, the onboarding one, in the same topic. So here in our life cycle, you see we've got three phases. They're represented here in these little pills, and also then they appear down the bottom where we can actually configure them. We can expand each of these as needed and configure it. Inside a phase, we're going to have either tasks, approvals, or Power Automate tasks. We can actually have a combination. You can have one or more of any of those three in one phase. So you can have two tasks, an approval, and a Power Automate task. You can have two approvals, no tasks, one Power Automate tasks, whatever you need, fully configurable. You just add them as you need. We're going to come back to Power Automate tasks in just a second as well. We'll link on that way nicely. So here again, this one's already built out for us. In this case, we have 4 tasks. So let's walk it through from the start, actually. In the first phase, called approval, new hire, we have just 1 approval. In the second phase, called account provisioning, we have 4 tasks, 4 things that need manually doing in order to fulfill this request at this phase. Assign the licenses, create the user and enterer, set up the HR, and set up Teams access. So again, do that. We can assign these out. These are all currently unassigned. We could assign these out to any agent we want, and each task can go to a different unique agent as needed to fulfill that request. Finally, we have hardware provisioning as a third phase with, again, 2 tasks needed to complete it. Between phases, we have transitions of how we kind of move on from there. In 90% of the cases, you're going to probably want to use the default logic. But if you want to do anything a little bit more interesting, you can use the logic builder and build a custom transition. So the default logic says that once everything's done, move to the next phase. Pretty easy, but I'll say pretty common, pretty much what we want in most cases. But maybe we want to do something different. Maybe we want to say, look, if 2 of the 3 are done, we're good to move on. So we could build that using the logic builder. We might say, if it's approved, move on. If it's rejected, then just cancel the whole thing and skip to the end, or go back up to the top and do something else again. So all that is possible using the logic builder for transitions. So again, there's awesome power there. Most cases, leave it as default logic, but when you need it, it's there under logic builder. Okay, how am I doing for time? I need to talk fast. So my top tip number 2 was Power Automate tasks. So I'm not going to have time to talk much about Power Automate. It's obviously a huge topic, but I just want to make sure everyone knows how to wire them up. When you're in a life cycle, in any phase, we can add Power Automate tasks. All we do is we add flow, and then we ask for a title. Now this can be anything you want. Obviously, you want to give it a sensible name, but the point is at this stage, it doesn't need to match up with anything. In a minute, we're going to create our flow, and then we'll make that link back. So I'm just going to call it, create a thing using Power Automate. Add. And that's created my task. I'm just going to give that a save. And then I'm going to flip to Power Automate. I've got a blank flow ready to go here. If we add trigger and search for Tikit, we will see that we have 6 triggers. In fact, the one we're looking for that's relevant here is when a lifecycle PA task becomes active. So that means when we get to that point in the lifecycle, not when we're still up here waiting for an approval. Only when we get down to that phase, it'll become active, and that will fire this trigger. And here's where we wire up to that specific piece. We select a lifecycle. It was the onboarding one. We select a phase. I believe I put it in that first phase, approval, just as an example. And then we can select a PA task, and there will appear the names of all the PA tasks, and there's the thing I just created a second ago. And that's how we link our Power Automate back to that particular point in that particular life cycle. And from then on, I can go on and do some very cool stuff. So I can maybe replace some of those tasks with Power Automate tasks to go and create the user in Entra myself, provision the user in other systems using any other Power Automate connector. Whatever else you could do with Power Automate, all the connectors into Microsoft, into Tikit, into other third-party systems, everything's possible by kicking off a flow when a lifecycle task becomes active. All right, I'm motoring now. Last thing, multi-department. We're seeing a lot of customers find a lot of value with this. So it has to be our top tip number 1. I'm going to jump back to Teams actually and show you here in my Teams. I've got 5 different departments all using Tikit. IT tend to be kind of the biggest users in a lot of departments. They've got the groups built out for the various sub teams within IT. My other departments all just use one channel, one group called tickets, but it's all possible to have multiple groups even within those extra teams as well. But I can now wire up in groups, in teams. Please let me log in. Yep. a different email, shared email for each team. So here I've got my office management team wired into their own shared mailbox. Anything sent to here creates a ticket, not in my default team of IT, but directly into the office management team itself. I can also push multi-department choices through to Ticket Virtual Agent. If I ask my agent a random question, I need a new chair. That's one I don't have knowledge for, so it's going to give me the default. No, it doesn't. I've got my threshold really low. I made some random matches there. I'm going to create a ticket. So that's the default ticket creation experience. But I've got this question coming through as well. Where should I send this request? And those same 5 teams, 5 departments are presented to the user here as well. So they can select where it goes. And again, that's not going to go to my default team. Nobody in IT needs to touch that, know about it. In fact, they won't even see it because all the different teams' tickets are all segregated off in their own security hole. So that goes straight to Office Management to fulfill that request. And that is my top tip, number 1, as the clock ticks over to past. Whew, I just talked really fast. I hope everyone got all of that. If you have any questions, then hopefully you know what to do. Reach out to us, help@tikit.ai. We really would love to hear from you about anything, about any of my top tips, suggestions for what you want to see next year in Training Tuesdays, anything else you want to talk about. As I say, we love to hear from everybody. So with that, we will wrap up. I wonder if anyone wants to come off camera, anyone on my team, just to say a quick kind of thank you and goodbye to everyone who's joined us on Training Tuesdays. It's been awesome to have you with us, and we'll see you all very soon in the new year. All right, have a great holidays, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, bye now.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.